Hello there, my name is Kay. I am a rental agent in Chicago, and I've been taking photos of apartment interiors for the past 5 years or so. Today I wanted to share with you some tips and a tutorial as to how to stitch together photos of a room that's a little too small to get all in one shot. We'll be using today Photoshop, although you could use free software like the GIMP in order to do this as well. We're going to be using a free program called AutoStitch, and we will very briefly be using a free program called View to view the photo in question. Now, I'm using Windows 7 Professional, and you can see that I have 6 photos here of a bedroom. I shot these over the weekend. Now, the first thing that's very important to remember when you're stitching photography is that all of the shots need to be in relatively similar light, same time of day, and from the same point of view in the room. I mounted my camera on a tripod and just did 6 shots of the room. The camera that I used for these is a Kodak point and shoot Easy Share V570 dual lens. They don't make that model anymore, which is unfortunate. I think it was in production for about a year, and every single one was snatched up by real estate agents. If you can find one on eBay or used in any other way, I do recommend it. It's a very useful little camera to have if you're shooting real estate. Now, we're going to pull up AutoStitch, which is available from autostitch.net. We're going to do File, Open. And you can see I have the same directory already pre-selected. If you don't, you might have to browse to it. You can see it's for editing here. And I'm going to click on the first photo, and then I'm going to hold Shift and click on the last photo, and you'll see all 6 have now been selected. And then I'll click Open. AutoStitch will now stitch all of those photos together into one. It's pretty quick on this computer. It's a nice powerful computer with a good processor. And now in View, which is also free software, View, it has opened up the photo for me automatically so that I can preview it. Now you can see up at the top we have some blurring of the light fixture here, although that's going to get cropped out in the final shot. You can also see we have this big TV over in the corner taking up this huge black blotch. Now, my client has asked me to not include this, so we'll crop that out. You can also see that we have these jaggy, curved edges. Now, this comes from AutoStitch warping the photos and twisting them to make everything line up to the best of its ability. Now, we're going to crop this to a nice rectangle, and we're also going to, once we get into Photoshop, straighten out some of these curved edges that make it really obvious that we stitched together multiple photos. We got a line here that has this odd little break in it, and then we have these windows which have tilted themselves into some bizarre shape. So, I'm going to close out of View. Don't worry, the file is already saved in my for editing directory. You can see it down here. In fact, I'm going to click on that. And in the background I have Adobe Photoshop CS4 open. And I'm going to click and drag that photo into Photoshop. Now it's time to tweak and edit this a little bit, and the first thing we're going to do is crop it. And I have crop here, crop tool. You can also press C to select it. Now you'll see up in the control bar I already have my crop set to a 3:2 crop, which means that I can click, and no matter what I do, it's going to constrain my crop to those dimensions. And I'm going to just click and drag until I've selected as much of the photo as possible without showing anything that's going to make it look terribly weird. Like this doorknob here, we don't want it in there, but we'll select as much as possible without it. And we've got some of the nice warm wood floor in here. And we have as much of the windows as possible without showing any of that TV. I've also gotten rid of the blurred lamp because I know that I'm not going to be able to clean that up terribly well. And I'm going to press Enter to commit that crop. And it's blown it up very, very large, so I'm going to press Control-0 to get everything back in frame. So we have a much larger picture of the bedroom, and I'm going to go back here and look at the individual shots, and you can see that none of them show as much of the room as our stitch. In fact, I would have needed to be about 6 feet further back and into the hallway in order to get this much shot into the frame, and in that case I would have wound up with a bunch of wall in my photo as well. So now I'm going to select the lasso, and we're going to start straightening out some of these weird little edges here. First thing I want to do is select a very, very tight circle that comes down to just at that break. I'm going to release. Press Ctrl C to copy that selection, and then Ctrl V to paste it to a new layer. And you can see that it has been pasted to a new layer on top of the background, and that new layer is already selected. I'm going to switch to my Move tool, and the first thing I want to do is straighten it out. And you can see if I hover right over the corner, it becomes a little twisty set of double arrows. I'm going to click and twist until it lines up with the rest of the wall down below. And that looks about right. Now I'm going to press the left arrow key to move it over until it's completely lined up, and then nudge it down just a little bit. And you can see, since I copied and pasted with a nice clean click, that what's underneath, you're not seeing a break in the ceiling here. It's just straightened everything out. Now I'm going to press Enter to commit that move. I'm going to select the background layer again so that the outline goes away, and you can see that we have a much cleaner wall. In fact, I will hide that upper layer so you can see how much we straightened out the wall. Now if you want, you can use the spot healing brush tool to get rid of this little blotch here. This photo is never going to be shown at this particular dimension to any client once it gets out into the wild, so I'm not terribly worried about that little bit there. The windows, on the other hand, you can see we have this major tilt here where the stitch occurred, so we're going to need to do some selective straightening. This one looks pretty straight. This one looks a little bizarre, so again, I'm going to make sure the background is selected. With the lasso tool, I'm going to select this line, and in fact I'm going to go all the way over to here. Select that one as well. I'm selecting right up the middle of the partition, because that way the edge will not be as visible when we do the tilt. Control C, Control V, and we have another new layer that's already selected. We go back to the Move tool, and I am going to make this just a little bit bigger so that it matches. I'm going to adjust my line so that it's nice and straight. I'm going to pull this in just a little bit so that it lines up. There we go. And then I will press Enter to commit the change. There we go. Let's tilt that back just a little bit. I went a little too far there. A little overzealous in my straightening there. There we go. Nice and clean. Okay. Now, in this same layer, well, let's see if we can pull that in just a little bit. There we go. Alright, straightened window. Again, I'll hide that so you can see how we fixed that up. Now this section here is, again, really jaggy. So I'm going to go select the background, lasso. Again, we're going to select in the borders, and we're going to go right down the edge here. I'm going to select right in the blur. Don't worry, we'll clean that up later, and I'll release. Control C to copy, Control V to paste a new layer. Move tool. And the first thing I want to do is straighten that out a little bit so that everything lines up, and move it over. Looks about right. Press Enter. A little too far. And I'm actually going to pull this down. There we go. So, make that go away so you can see all better. Now we just need to get rid of this blur here, and to do that, first thing I'm going to do is flatten everything out so that when I'm selecting, I'm actually selecting something that's reasonably cohesive. So I'm going to click right here and select flatten. Now all those layers have been combined into the background. Now I just need to get rid of this blur here, and to do that we're going to use the patch tool. I'm going to draw a little selection right around this blurry area here. I'm going to click and hold on it, and drag up, and you can see that it's taking whatever is under my cursor and placing it on top of that selected area. And what it's going to do is blend that all together once I let go. And our blur has gone away. And there's a little tiny line there, like I said, once we pan out a little bit, which I'm going to do, to the size where someone's going to be looking at it. Got a nice clean photo. Now, just in case I ever want to go back to the original pano, I'm going to save this as something else. And in this case, I'm going to call it something simple like Bedromm. Or Bedrood. There we go. And press save. And that's how you stitch together and photo edit a bedroom photo. Now I'm going to do one other little trick that I've learned, just to make this room look a little bit warmer and sunnier. This was a cloudy day when I took the photo. I'm going to select a gradient. I have a gray sort of gradient scheme going on here. I set it to overlay, 30% transparency, or opacity. I'm going to do a diagonal click and drag. It's a little too much. You can see that suddenly it's a bright sunny day in that room. Now I'm not going to save this particular version, but just a little tip for you. Thanks very much for watching.